On Saturday, Heart Midlothian began a run of 5 games before the international break. That will tell us a lot about the team. It starts with a trip to Rugby Park. Welcome to Heart Standard. My name is Joe Skett, and I'm delighted to be joined by Scott McIntosh. Now, we previewed the game yesterday. Scott and Mark previewed it on Scarce Around the Funnel earlier in the week. Do go and check that out. They've got a new YouTube channel as well. Go and subscribe, and you can watch there. Kind of looked at what to expect from Kelly. I got the Kilmarnock view and Peyton, but I wanted to use this show to mainly look forward, at the slightly bigger picture and one or two other bits. So before we get into that, Heart Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Just about got through that. Scott, how excited? I've just going right over the pleasantries. We did that before we came on. So, yeah, how excited are you for your trip to Ayrshire tomorrow or Saturday on Saturday?
Yeah, really excited. I think because there's been the international break, it's built up the expectation as well. So it's a game that you've actually been thinking about, well over a week now, if you're not too overly fussed about the international fixtures. So I think that, along with the momentum that's been building off the back of that last-minute winner in the Edinburgh Derby, I think it's a game that all Hearts fans are all looking forward to, regardless of whether you're going or not, or you're trying to catch it in another format.
Yeah, I was speaking to another Jambo last week, just messaging, and I'm mentioned the fact that I was so excited, just wanted the game to come around and get to Kilmarnock, and reply did say note that it's not often you say that. It's like you're desperate to get to, or excited to get to Rugby Park, and that's been backed up with the crowd. You mentioned it, but I think when I put the story about the size, the fact that it was almost a sellout, the only other time I could remember it being full was on opening day of 05-06. I think I've been part of a couple of big away supports. I think maybe when Uchi scored the 1-0, I think there was a decent size support at Rugby Park that day, but certainly I think can only remember 05-06 as being as big as it's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, 05-06, even they had walk-ins. So even then, it wasn't all sort of pre-sold tickets. They had a lot of people turning up and walking in that day. I think the only time we've probably sort of sold it out and even had an additional bit of the side stand as well is probably when we went there in the Scottish Cup in 95-96 season. So that's probably the last time I can recall us really fully selling it out and having tickets sold prior to the match. So that tells you just how far back this goes. And it just points to a fan base that I think, okay, we can look at it as a results-based momentum, and that's fair enough. But I actually think the fans have now seen enough of this team to know that the intent is to go out there and create chances. The arguments about how that's achieved and whether that's something that's palatable for every fan on an individual basis, but you can't argue the fact that we're creating chances and that there's an intent there to try and play the game the right way and at least entertain the fans in the sense of creating chances and trying to score goals. So I think there is that underlying feeling as well. It's not just the results. I think the fans are quite happy with what we've been seeing so far in terms of the performances as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because there's always, the Hearts have got a big support and a really big core that will go no matter what, whether it's home games or away games. But I think there's also that, I think if there's a Hearts team that is put out and does the things that you said, that it does engage and excite, and it's not that difficult for Hearts fans to be really engaged and kind of get on the bandwagon if that's being put out. It's like if there's a bit of an excitement about the team, if there's a bit of intent, as you said, and there's a squad and players that people like, I do think there is an element of the fan base which is just dying for that to be the case.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, look, we all know that Hearts fans get a rep for this. Most football clubs fans get a rep for this, that they're sort of waiting on something to go wrong, that they can be quite pessimistic in nature. But I actually think the opposite is true. I think football fans are dying for a team, a manager, players to love and to gravitate to, and to remind them of how they felt about football games when they used to go when they were younger. I don't think it's the it's the natural reaction to be pessimistic. It's just that sometimes you have to follow the evidence and go with that. And if the team aren't playing well, and if there isn't those personalities there that you can gravitate to, then naturally you're not going to be impressed. And sometimes that'll lead to maybe anger or even worse, apathy amongst the fans. But I think you're seeing just now, they believe that the club are going somewhere. Again, there's a lot of outside noise as to how escalated that process is. And I don't think it's Hearts themselves that are particularly pushing that narrative. I think a lot of it's coming from outside the club in terms of what can they do this season. I just think, it's all about enjoying it game to game just now and just seeing where we end up at the end of the season. And hopefully, if we carry on the momentum for the first 7 league games of the season, we'll hopefully find ourselves in a really positive spot come May.
It's really awkward that you said that about pushing that narrative and looking at it game to game, because I'm about to ask you questions.
I knew you were going to ask. That's why I thought I'd get that in early. That's just how I'm seeing it as an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we will. We'll be talking about title challenges per se, but looking at the next 5 games as a whole. But looking at just staying on the game tomorrow, in terms of the tests we've faced this season, where do you put the visit to Rugby Park?
I think this is going to be, it's probably going to be quite similar to the Hibs game, if I'm being completely honest, even although we're going to be playing away from home. I think we're going up against a side, when I was looking at the metrics in terms of Kilmarnock this season at the start of the week, they're 12th in possession, they're 12th in accurate passes, and they're 12th in number of passes as well. So they're clearly not a side that are designed, They're not designed to be a team that want the ball. I think we'll see a lot of the ball tomorrow, and that has represented challenges for us earlier on the season. If you think of that first half against Livingston, there was certainly a challenge with the fact that a team were quite happy to give us the ball and then try and hit us on the break. I suppose the difference between that is that there should probably be a difference in shape between what we start with tomorrow and what we started with in that fixture. But yeah, I think there will be a challenge in that respect. And I'm expecting them to be very physical, and I'm expecting them to be wanting to compete for a lot of those second balls. But I think, as we showed against Hibs in that, we've shown that we can rise to that challenge. So I'm not expecting it to be a fluid game of football tomorrow. I think it might even come down to set plays again, but we've got the players there that can handle that, which is good.
And how is your, kind of looking at the bigger picture now, how has your view changed, or has it changed on your kind of view of the team over the last, say, couple of months? And when I say couple of months, we've only played about 3 games in the last couple of months, 3 or 4 games.
These international breaks are an absolute killer in terms of building momentum, isn't it? I think in terms of my overall view of the squad, it hasn't changed overly. I still think we're still a little bit short on the right-hand side. And that's not really all down to not having the personnel. It's just because we've had injuries and we've had individuals like Kurjota who are coming in and having to be, bled into the team on a little bit of a sort of gradual, incremental basis. So I think because of that, we're still looking a little weaker down the right-hand side, I would say. But we're managing to sort of pull through it. We play in the likes of McAtee and Milne out of position. But I would like to get Milne back in at the left-back position, because I think he started the season really well there. And I think he adds us a little bit more going forward compared to Kingsley as well. So there's still areas in the team that I think we can build on. Centre of midfield as well. Again, through injury and through having to play McAtee in at right back, we haven't really seen us get that balance in the midfield. Mm-hmm. And again, you could probably say that over the last 3 games, it hasn't hindered the team too much, because against Rangers and against Falkirk, we were up against teams where we could press really high, and it wasn't so much about us having to build for the back and create chances. It was about us creating chances for pressing the opposition. And then against Hibs, it was very much just a direct game where the ball just wasn't spending any time in the midfield. So having that sort of defensive midfield pairing of Benny and Cammy wasn't a hindrance. But I think you'll see as the season progresses, we do need to get someone else in there. We do need another option in there that can either drive with the ball forward 5-10 yards, or maybe just be a little bit progressive in their forward passing as well.
Because I was talking to a mate a couple of days ago just about the midfield and just about the team in general going forward. And the more I was thinking about my 11 for this weekend, I was like pushing towards a 4-3-3. But I actually think if you play a 4-3-3, you need to drop Benny And I think when Hearts play a 4-3-3, I think it's Devlin or Benny. And the way that Devlin's been playing recently, there's no question who you drop. And one of those players playing the 6, and then you've got, whether it's when Adju's fit, or you've got McEntee, Magnuson, Blair Spittle, two of those playing in front of them as like number 8s with kind of license to get forward.
I think that's been going through my head as well this week, in terms of, is there going to be a slight change that I'd either expect to see or maybe want to see? And I think the 4-3-3, it does have its merits. Again, without Adju maybe being able to play in off the left-hand side. I don't know, again, if they've got the balance right in there. For me, Magnuson looks a similar profile to McAtee. So I don't know how those two in the same midfield would fit in, to be fair. So I do think it's probably a case of maybe just going with the same 11 today and then just seeing where we go from there. And probably just, if Borshevic's fit, bringing him in and putting McAtee into a more central position.
Yep, sorry, I've just been interrupted by a dog, so sorry. I was like, I'll just bring her up and let her sit on the desk. Well, that's terrible because you're just snorting in the mic. Maybe better than listening to me, that's to be fair. So yeah, that's where I've been. Yeah, Craig's went for the same 11 as has been the case. And I've been swilling about 4-3-3, but it's just so difficult. Just with everything he said about the players playing out of position, and you could bring McEntee into the midfield, but I'm not sure that you want to put Borkovic straight back in and away to Kelly. So yeah, very interested to see what the starting 11 is on Saturday. Now, looking forward, the Hearts management team do like to break down the season into chunks. What those chunks are, I'm not 100% sure, but I'd imagine that they are looking at this spell now, 5 games between now and the international break. I know that Mark, when he was doing the podcast with you, gave you a deal or no deal choice about the next 3 games, but I kind of wanted to ask you about the next 5 in terms of what do you think we should be aiming for between now and the next international break? So that takes into account away at Kilmarnock, home to Celtic, away to St Mirren, and home to Dundee and Dundee United.
Yeah, I think in terms of the position we find ourselves in, being top with 2 points of a gap over Celtic, I think we should be going into every game at the moment just looking to win a game and keep the pressure on everyone else below us. It should be a case of, let's deal with this next game. As long as we're getting points in our games, we're creating some level of distance from the sides below us. So whether that be Celtic as a direct rival, whether it's Rangers if they decide to, ascend the table once they get their manager situation sorted, or whether it's even what would normally be prioritised as our normal rivals, i.e. Hibs and Aberdeen, and to a lesser extent Dundee United. So I think over 5 games, we should be looking to win them all. Now, I'm not saying the expectation should be to win them all, but given the form we're in just now, we should be looking at that as a 15-point opportunity, because every game's winnable for us just now. And the reason why it is because very few teams are able to build up a heady steam like us, and to a certain degree Celtic have this season. Kilmarnock, I think, are the only team outside of us to win 2 games running in the league since it started in August. So yeah, I think that there's an opportunity there to go for 15 points. I would be surprised if we walked away with 15 points, especially when you consider the opening 3 matches being away to Killie and St Mirren, knowing how they will both set up in those matches, and then obviously a home game against Celtic next week. So everyone's got different permutations as to what they would prefer. Some people have said, oh, well, would you take 5 points? And it's like, well, what if you lose one game but you win the other 2 and you get 6 points, and one of those wins are against Celtic? Would that not be better? So there's so many different permutations that fans can go through. I just think just now we should be looking to win every game. Every game is winnable, given not just the options we have in our first 11, but the options we have to adapt to each individual fixture, with the options we have either in the squad or even on the periphery of the team just now, if you consider some of the guys that have just came back for the international break. So I think given all those variables and the fact that other teams are struggling for consistency, we should be looking to win every game. That should be the feeling amongst the squad. They shouldn't be feeling any more positive than they can just now. They've just came off the back of a derby win. They've won at Ibrox for the first time in a decade. Players are coming back from good international breaks. We've got players coming back from injury. There's good squad competition. The feeling shouldn't be any higher. And therefore, starting tomorrow, what we should be asking for as a team is 3 points.
So Scott is thinking 15 points for the next 5 games. So I appreciate this isn't live. If you're listening on Facebook, YouTube, please do comment below. I'll be keen to see or hear, read what everyone is thinking and what they would take from the next. What should Hearts be aiming for, and what they would take from the next 5 games. And I do think you make great point. There's a real confidence going into every game, and it's how you go back to 12 months, like kind of 12 months ago, and you're looking at the fixture list and thinking, where's a run of wins coming from? And then you flip it, and you're watching a team who can excite you. There's a lot of positives about them, and it's just like the complete opposite. It's like this is a team that you're positive about where points are coming from, but really keen not to say too much about jinxing ahead of tomorrow. But I do think, and you kind of talked about it, was I will find the next, not so much tomorrow, but and maybe not so much Celtic, but St Mirren away and then Dundee at home, because Derek McIntosh has talked about utilising the squad, and I think that I find that will be a really interesting dynamic and balance when it comes to it, and how he does that, and how players maybe step up. He spoke positively about Magnuson. Kabori has gone away and done really well with his international team. Kajota is probably going to play a wee bit more and more, and you're just looking to see if these guys, the guys on the periphery, can come in and be as effective as the guys who've been starting and as they've kind of shown off the bench. Then you're really encouraged by what else can happen this season.
Yeah, definitely, and I think as well, you're right to point out that 3-game sort of week that we've got with Celtic, St Mirren and Dundee. That is massive to just see how strong the squad is compared to our current sort of expectations of what they can achieve. I think also when you think about this sort of chunky 5 games that we're facing, I think if you roll back a year ago when we're towards the bottom end of the league, when you're having to look up the way, you really do get bogged down on what other teams are doing as well.
Yeah.
Because you're not only having to worry about your form, but then you're expecting or hoping for favours from other teams and other fixtures. That's the great thing about being top of the league, even if it's going to be for a short space of time. We can go into tomorrow's fixture only having to focus on what we are facing.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit who Hibs are playing tomorrow? Who gives a shit who Dundee United are playing tomorrow? Doesn't really matter, because if we can contain our, keep our momentum going, then it really doesn't matter what other teams are going to do. We only have to worry about them when we come to face them directly. So that's, again, another positive of being at the top end rather than where we were 12 months ago, where not only are you going into games thinking, right, we need to start winning, but you're also worried about what Ross County are doing that weekend or St Johnstone are doing that weekend. We don't have that problem just now, and that's another positive. I have been
guilty, and I'd see if I was properly involved in football as in like a coach or a player, and I had to do the press, and you have to say the old cliche about it's just one game at a time, you don't look too far ahead. And like Derek McIntosh was asked on Wednesday, I think he was asked a question about Celtic, and he was like, I can understand why you're asking about it, but we were concentrating on Kilmarnock. I'd be terrible at that, because all the last couple of weeks I've been thinking, I was speaking to mates about it as well. I was like, see, imagine we beat Kilmarnock that week leading up to Celtic coming to Tynecastle, a match that I look at their squad and think they're not prepared for. But then I need to realise that Kilmarnock is a very, very tough game in itself, and I need to do the one game at a time. But it's really difficult to do that when you're so positive about the team and excited about it.
Yeah, and look, Kilmarnock any season can be a tough fixture, but I think Kettlewell's got them very well drilled, similarly to how he did with Motherwell at times during his spell there. And there is also the added spice if he decides to sort of throw that grenade in there with the squad to say, look, this is up to you to show him what he's walked away from as well in terms of Derek McIntosh. So there could be that added variable in terms of how they react to the fixture and how the fans react to the fixture. It's just a case of, I think it'll be a tight match just because of how Kilmarnock will set up, and we will see a lot of the ball and probably more of the ball than we maybe want to have, I think,
Yeah.
at times, in terms of how we've been setting up the season. So that's going to be where the patience is going to be required for the fans. I don't think it's going to be a match where we'll be able to come out of it all guns blazing, because I think it'll be a controlled start to the game because they will allow us to have a lot of the ball, and it'll be a case of us having to be patient in terms of working those openings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a balance to be sought as well. And I think a lot of fans would probably like to see Kizarides and Kurjota play on the wide, or sorry, on the wings, both of them. And then you're just thinking maybe you kind of want to maybe hold Kurjota back because of how little space there's going to be in those opening sets, especially the first half, and then to have that impact off the bench for a wide player when it does start to open up, because it's natural in the second half. Like Kilmarnock, one way or another, will there'll be a time where they will hopefully have to commit men forward because they're trailing. So you do want someone like him that can come off the bench in the wide area to inject a wee bit something different into the final third and Hearts attack.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I think what you really want in the opening 45 is for your two forwards to be trying to exploit as much space as they can in between the centre halves. And it's more so having wingers that can be inverted, like the options that potentially Milne and Kizarides can offer you from the right and left wings. So I think that would be the way forward for them. I think if you throw in Kurjota in there, it could have a similar impact to the St Mirren game in the cup. Where the game just gets played in front of Kilmarnock and they're quite comfortable dealing with it as a sort of flat five. I think it's about trying to be cute with the ball, and again, having somebody like Shanklin who's good with his movement, Braga who's a constant nuisance. It'll be all about trying to get the ball up to them as directly as you can, and then hoping that the likes of Milne and Kizarides actually offer a supporting role as attacking players rather than creating stuff off the wings. Like you say, bringing Kurjota on in the second half when the game's stretched, potentially somebody like Kabori through the middle or Kabangu, if they're on the bench as well. Those are the types of options that we'd be looking to use in that last sort of 20 to 30 minutes, I would have thought.
And just finally, just before we finish up, just wanted to get your thoughts on Craig, potential new deal for Craig Halkett. Craig and I spoke about it on a Thursday show. What's your own thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a deal that he's probably earned in terms of how he's approached his sort of fitness regime and getting back in as good a shape as he could for this summer. So I think he's earned it in that respect. Now, is there an element of risk to the deal because of his track record in terms of the poor unfortunate luck that he's had with injuries, specifically over the last 3 seasons? And yeah, there is, but there's always risk with either signing players or keeping players on. You never know what's going to happen. I remember when we gave Stefan Adam a big sort of near 5-figure sum to stay at the club in 1999, and he'd had 2 seasons where he barely picked up a knock, and then for the resultant 3 years after that, he was always on the injury table. He just had such bad luck with injuries after that. So look, I don't think it's a situation where, let's say, Craig Halkett has further problems in the future. Fans should revisionise what's happened just now and go, oh, well, you shouldn't have offered them the contract. I think the club can only base it on how he's doing just now and how they see him contributing over the next couple of years. And I think when you've got a structure in place like what we've got, where there is going to probably be a high turnover, if we're doing well in terms of recruitment with players coming in and leaving in a sort of 18, 24-month spell, you do need a bit of continuity in the squad. And that's where someone like a Halkett, a Kingsley or a Shanklin, or even a Cammy Devlin come into play. So I do think it's a good deal for the club and the player just now. It obviously has a bit of a risk, but I think he's earned it given how he started the season.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree with that. Scott, we will leave it there. Thank you very much for coming on and telling everyone that we're going to get 15 points for the next 15.
Just waiting for that to get clipped, Dave.
Don't worry. I'm not going to clip it, but I do agree with you, and hopefully you are correct, because if we got 15 for 15, the excitement is going to be off this scale. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Apologies it wasn't live, just it was easier to record. Be sure to check out heartstandard.co.uk. Be sure to subscribe, and also be sure to check out Scarfs Around the Funnel in their new YouTube channel. There's been some excellent interviews going up with there's the most recent one was Stefan Adam and Gilles Rousset, and of course Mark and Scott, and a variety of guest review and preview all the games as well. Other than that, enjoy Rugby Park. Scott, enjoy Rugby Park, everyone who is going, and those who are not, hopefully we are back on Saturday evening discussing another Heart of Midlothian victory.